All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honors unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem God Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders of a great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. This is another edition of Israelites in History. What I have here is an article from news.artnet.com going into archaeology. And check this out. It says, scholars have decoded the world's oldest sentence written with an alphabet. It's a highly specific warning about lice. Okay. So it says the sentence was inscribed on an ancient ivory comb found at the Tel Lachish archaeological site in 2016. Now it says, if you expected humankind's earliest scribes, when they first began writing with the alphabet, to record some kind of generational wisdom or an important message meant to be passed down through the ages, you would be wrong. Yeah, well, most people would think about the Code of Hammurabi going back to, Mesopotamia. But check this out. It says the oldest decipherable full sentence in the alphabet ever found, dated to 1700 BCE, is inscribed on a tiny ivory comb unearthed in 2016 at the Tel Lachish archaeological site in central Israel. The faint letters read, "May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard." So it's basically for hygiene, for good hygiene, which is wisdom, All right, but it happens to be Hebrew, okay, from 1700 BC. It says people kind of laugh when you tell them what the inscription actually says. One of the archaeologists on the project, Michael Hassel of the Southern Adventist University in Tennessee, told the New York Times. But the message is also remarkably relatable, especially for parents of small children. All right. Let's see here. So it says the words were written by the ancient Canaanites, which when you go into the alphabet of the Canaanites, that's Paleo-Hebrew, right? It says a Near Eastern peoples who developed the earliest alphabet and an ancestor of our modern Latin day letters. Wait, so if the Canaanites had the earliest alphabet, and we know the Canaanites, that Canaanite Phoenician Hebrew is also known as the Paleo-Hebrew or the ancient Hebrew, then what does that say about the languages, man? Okay. It says there were earlier, right, now this is what it says here. There were earlier forms of writing with Mesopotamia, cuneiform, and Egyptian hieroglyphics emerging around 3200 BCE, but those were pictorially based systems with hundreds of letters. So which one is it? Now through the Spirit, we know that Hebrew was the language that was spoken by all people before the scattering at the Tower of Babel. Okay? It says the development of the Canaanite alphabet with its comparatively small numbers of letters that corresponded to basic spoken sounds or phonemes was a groundbreaking moment in human history because each letter matched one sound. Reading and writing became easier to master, simplifying written communication for the masses in much the same way as the printing press or the internet did many generations later. All right, so let's get a scripture. Right? Let's get a scripture. And let's go to Genesis. Let's go to the 10th chapter. Right? Or is it 11th chapter? Let me get here because I want to get. Right, so let's go to Genesis, the 11th chapter. It says the universal language, Babel confusion. Genesis 11:1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as the journey from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And this story basically goes into them building the Tower of Babel. Okay? So I'm going to jump down some. Right? It says, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, which means basically confusion, right? Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, confusion. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So now all peoples are going to different places. Okay? So now, let's see here. Let's see here. Now, when you go into the descendants of Shem, right, or Semites as they call them today, right, Shemitic, it talks about Shem's line, and I want to get something interesting on down to, I'll read verse 14 on down to 16. It says, and Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 430 years and begat Peleg. Which, when you go into Eber, all right, it's like you. Now they have it here, Eber or Hebrew, which in the Hebrew is Ibar, which is where you get Hebrew from, okay? Which basically means, it says here the region beyond, but it really means from the past, okay? Let's see here. Yeah, region beyond, across. Right, like they say like the Passover, but it means from the past, meaning back, okay? All right? So let me go back. Let's go back. Now let's go to Peleg, which Pelag in the Hebrew means division, okay? Because this was around the time that everybody got divided into their different languages, and the people that was one, all right, had went off to, different places, spoke different languages. Basically the sons of Noah and their descendants were scattered, okay? Or the descendants of Noah's sons were scattered, all right? And I said all this to say, I brought this out to say that when you look at the sons of Shem and their names, and it all alludes to these people were there back then. So what happened? Things were divided, okay? And these names, during that time they were divided, are all Hebrew names, okay? They're all Hebrew names, all right? Even the Mesopotamians have the story of the great flood that happened in Noah's time, okay? So I want to go back to the article here, all right? So it says here, nowadays every person in the world can read and write using the alphabet system. This is really one of the most important intellectual achievements of humankind, Garfinkel added. When you are writing in English, you're really using Canaanite, okay? And when you look at the letter A, that corresponds with the A in the Canaanite or ancient Hebrew language, okay? And this is some great history, man. Great history. Okay. Let's see if I can pull a chart. Let's go to Google. Let's go to Google. Right. Let's see. Hebrew chart. Right. Matter of fact, let's put the Canaanite chart. Right. Hebrew chart, Canaanite. Yep. And here we go here. The biblical Hebrew to English alphabet. Okay. And you can see it here. Now, these are the pictographs that it was talking about here on the far left. But then when you go into the Paleo-Hebrew from around 1100 on up to English, this is what you see. The A corresponds with the A in the Paleo-Hebrew. All right? Same thing with the B, the G, the D. Okay? So this is a true thing. All right? So when they're discovering these things and they're going back to these archaeological digs and they're discovering these things, this is what they're finding. Okay? Let me go back to the article. All right? Let me go back to the article here. All right? Let's see here. I'm going to read this last part. It says, this new kind of writing first appeared around 1800 BCE, centuries before the Phoenicians, often credited with inventing the alphabet. Even the word alphabet goes back to the Greek, which goes back to the Hebrew, which is alat bayath. Okay? Began to standardize letter forms around 1100 BCE. Archaeologists have identified Canaanite letters on artifacts before, but this is the first time anyone has found a full sentence in the alphabet. All right? So this is a great discovery, man. A great discovery dealing with, sentences and going back to the Hebrew and everything like that. This is a beautiful thing because it just further proves what we've been saying all these years. Okay? The Hebrew led right here unto the English and other languages. All right? So with that, I hope it was edifying. All praises go to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.